Korean scholar. Korean scholar. Korean scholar. Waking up the people of the Most High. Got the knowledge to destroy the lies. DNA history, open eyes. Walk into the darkness and turn on the lights. Wake up, 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 wake up. DNA scholar, knowledge scholar, history scholar. Korean scholar.
To cause you to read the scriptures for yourself. When you read the scriptures for yourself, you will find the truth. And if you find the truth, warning, the content of this video is designed to cause you to read the scriptures for yourself. When you read the scriptures for yourself, you will find the truth. And if you find the truth will set you free.
There's undoubtedly something extraordinary about you. You must be pretty special if an entire movement of MAGA people had to create a Project 2025 to erase your contributions, remove your genius, marginalize your brilliance, disenfranchise your power, restrict your participation, and miseducate the nation's children. Maybe you don't know how powerful you are, black people. Billionaires funded, lawyers plotted, think tanks studied, politicians gathered, insurrectionists on January 6th planned, entire news networks broadcast, and a so-called president gave executive orders, all centered on quieting the power of a people who will not be silent.
But they are too, though.
Who's that?
The other side is far more diligent about looking for that Messiah than we are, because they know where to look. You probably wonder, why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? You would think if you didn't like something, why would you be paying attention to it? I don't pay attention to things I don't like.
What's the answer?
The answer is the liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost. Over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost. Over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chop those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nose, it can only be this. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part? Nobody wanted to knock an eye off or take an ear off or no chins missing. Nope, just the nose. Because it's a brand.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. This is the most important thing you'll learn. Teach it to your children and make sure they teach theirs.
Granddad, you've been brainwashed.
The only people who don't do that, who don't make their God look like them, are black people. I'm not aware of any other group of people who go so far outside or in opposition to who they are and what they look like. But we swallowed this image wholesale. Certainly we've been brainwashed into thinking that we cannot be capable of divinity, that we can't be capable of redemption or of being a conduit. We have been conditioned to believe ourselves to be lesser because we cannot identify that image. That image is very important.
Culture. Black culture is toxic. The black culture is toxic. We have produced a culture that is toxic.
And this is why I say black people are the most racist people in American history.
Other blacks killing black.
Black people feel safer amongst each other, but they're more likely to kill each other.
What percentage of murders do blacks commit in America? What percentage of blacks have a father around when they're raped? Black community.
Black people.
Downfall of the black family.
Well, maybe I really am just Uncle Tom's favorite nephew.
I feel safer around police officers, Caucasians, and in any Caucasian neighborhood.
Granddad, you've been brainwashed.
Why does American conservatism have for anti-blackness? More importantly, why are so many of the people who are anti-black, black people themselves?
Been brainwashed.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Certainly we've been brainwashed.
Almost immediately, most former rebel states enact harsh laws known as black codes.
The black codes are laws designed to regulate the lives of blacks, in particular to control their movements throughout the South and to force them back onto the plantations as farm laborers working for the white landlords.
Some codes prohibit blacks from owning firearms, buying liquor, or engaging in any trade or business other than farming. The land promised to the freedmen is returned to unrepentant rebels, sentencing blacks to a landless existence for generations to come.
And so it has gotten to a point where the whiteness of Jesus has become more important than the God essence of Jesus in the flesh. And the psychology was, you take our religion and here is our God. This white man right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we had white Jesus in my house.
You had white Jesus?
White Jesus. I remember my brother brought home a black Jesus. My mother made him carry that back outside because she thought it was being disrespectful. You understand? But that's fear of being who you are.
What shapes your subconscious mind? Practically everything that you're exposed to, everything that you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel is shaping your subconscious mind.
Now, this is the cover of Ebony magazine, March 1969. The cover is of Black Jesus. And when I've heard the story behind this, the very disheartening story behind it, what happened after this Ebony magazine was published, it blew my mind. But not really. Read with me now. March of 1969, Ebony magazine was nearly put out of business. Why? They published an issue of Ebony magazine with a black Jesus on the cover. So many in the black community were upset to the point of threatening to cancel their subscriptions. Yeah.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Who they are and what they look like, but we swallowed this image wholesale. Certainly we've been brainwashed.
For my whole life, my parents, my grandparents, me, for most black people, this system has never worked for us.
We still have the Constitution to protect us. When that piece of paper was written, African people in this country were slaves. All of us. We sisters were considered nothing but bed warmers. Well, we have our rights now. I mean, they're not going to deny me I'm an African American. Here, Miss Lambchop. Stop worrying about integrating and being accepted and start thinking about building for yourself, for our people, so that we can provide a future for our children.
My grandfather built this country, man. He fought wars for it. And most places he went wouldn't let him sit down and get a cup of coffee. I can't even catch a cab in New York.
But we still play ball. tried to do our best to live by the rules, even though we knew they would never work out in our favor.
I'm a citizen. I go to work. I pay my taxes. I'm the guy that's supposed to be protecting. But when they look at me, they don't see that. All they see is another nigger. Some crackhead who's gonna steal their money and rape their women.
Black people wake up every day believing that our lives are gonna change, even though everything around us says it's not.
You know, it doesn't matter how many degrees I get. All you people see is color. Your grandfather was an immigrant. You're American. My grandfather was born here, Duke. And you people still look at me as just another nigger.
Because just when you think maybe things are getting better and we don't have to put up with this stuff anymore, they whack you over the head to remind you nothing's changed.
I'm used to things not going my way. I'm sorry that you're not, and it's blowing your mind. So excuse me if I get a little offended because I didn't see all of this outrage when everything was happening to all of my people since we were stuffed on boats in chains. I love this country as much, if not more, than you do, and don't you ever forget that.
The strictly brainwashing.
In Brown versus Board of Education, the famous case that desegregated schools in the 1950s, Dr. Kenneth Clark conducted a doll test with black children. He asked them to choose between a black doll and a white doll. In most instances, the majority of the children preferred the white doll. I decided to reconduct this test as Dr. Clark did to see how we've progressed since then. Can you show me the doll that you liked best or that you'd like to play with?
This one. I like that one.
Okay.
This one.
That one?
This one. I like to play with this.
And can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll?
She's white.
And can you show me the doll that looks bad? Okay. And can you and why does that look bad?
Because it's black.
And why do you think that's a nice doll?
Because she's white.
And can you give me the doll that looks like you? "15 out of the 21 children preferred the white doll.
Welcome. Those of you who are on the live, thank you for being here. I hope you hit the like button. This is going to be a good one because it's already going to be a hard one. So I have a panel with me. I have Pastor Kelly along with me. I think another one's going to come, but I don't know if they're going to be or not. I'm checking them out and checking the chat to make sure I see them. But guys, we're talking about, let me just put the screen here where you can see. Made in his image, made in the perfect image of the Most High. And that's what we're talking about today. Although we were made in his image, everything in life, everything we know, everything that's happened to our people has been to cover up that image. I remember in college when I first heard the term Imago Dei, the Latin term for made in his image. And it's coming from Genesis that when the Most High said, let us make man in our image. When Yah said, let us make man in our image. And as you know, we went over the scriptures before where we show how he took his hand and made image out of the dust of the ground and made him in his image. Now, the scriptures tells us his image and what his image looked like. Even the name Adame, we know what that means, ruddy. We know how that looks. Science tells us what that image says. We played Dr. Stephen Wells. We played Dr. Rebecca Cann. I played also Professor Ken and other professors that show that genetically said that everything goes back to Africa. The first man was melanated. But yet, we've been conditioned to see ourselves lesser than. That dog test that I just showed a little while ago was done in the mid 80s. So that means the mindset of our kids, those people in the 80s now are adults. Now they now have kids of their own. And the little mindset carry on generation to generation. That trauma carries on generation to generation to generation until you're renewed, till your mind is renewed. That trauma stays there, and it reproduces, and it regenerates, and it repopulates communities that we don't see ourselves less. We see ourselves less than. Let me bring up Pastor Richard. Are you there? I guess he's become while he's coming on. We're going to talk about some of the things that happened to us to keep. I think he just came on. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. My mic was muted. I was trying
That's
to
okay.
unmute
That's
myself.
okay. We just getting started about the Imago Dei and being created in this image, but yet everything that happened to us as a people has been to destroy that image in our own minds. So we have self-hate and all that we have to deal with as a people.
Okay, absolutely. And great topic, great subject. And pretty much the term that we would hear from a spiritual perspective, and we all heard this before, is generational curses.
Yes.
Territorial curses. We see it all through the scriptures. And when you read the book of Deuteronomy, especially the consequences, many will refer to it as the curses, the blessings and the curses. Actually, the curses is actually in chapter 27. Those are the laws of the curses. And then we get to 28, we see the blessings. And then once we get down to verse 15, we're seeing the consequences for breaking the curses, laws of the curses. So we see the blessings of honoring it, and then we see the consequences. And laid out in the consequences, you will see as part of the consequences of breaking the agreement, some of the behaviors that we see today.
Yes.
And it's covered right there. So it's all in the scriptures for those that are watching for the first time and may not be familiar with this. You see generational curses, as well as you see territorial spirits, territorial curses that are being dealt with in the scriptures. And you see Daniel dealt with a territorial spirit where the angel had to intercede for another angel in order to bring forth the message to him.
And the focus that we had on today is those generational curses that we as a people brought ourselves for walking in disobedience. But because we walked into disobedience, we got sold into the trauma and and I remember as you said, the translated slave war and stuff that happened before that really did a brain job on us as a people today.
Absolutely. And that's, one of the things I believe we're learning more and more as we delve into the tactics of those that have enslaved us. They made it a point to pretty much modify everything. And, when I say everything, they left no stone unturned.
No stone.
To push their agenda. And, even the book of Revelation talks about, I think it's chapter 13, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, don't have it in front of me, but it talks about how this beast was given authority over us, as, our heritage, our people, our land, and our language. And so when we start really unpacking that from even just from the language perspective, we can see that words have meaning,
Words have
and
meaning. That's good.
there's a reason why the oppressors took hold of that Babylonian system. That Babylonian system, remember with Nebuchadnezzar, he got all the best. That was the first thing that Daniel starts off with, saying how he took all the best young people from Israel and brought them to Babylon, and then he began to indoctrinate them. And one part of that indoctrination was changing their names.
Yes. Yeah.
It took Yah's name from them and placed the name of Baal associated with their names. So the enemy knows that even with names have meaning. And when you call someone by a name over and over again, you're actually speaking whatever words and whatever meanings that come with the territory of that name. And I remember this when I was younger, my grandmother, and try not to laugh, but you know how you grow up, you have all kinds of nicknames.
Yeah.
And
With those two.
yeah, and I remember, I used to be into martial arts and all of that. And one of my friends called me Killer Kel, right? And he called me that in front of my grandmother. And my grandmother was like, my baby ain't no killer. You better not call my baby a killer. You will not speak
That's
that
right.
over my
That's right.
my baby right there. And she told me, don't you let him call you that either. Or let no one call you that. So understanding names have meaning. That's why we were told not to invoke the name of any other deities. So names have meaning, and I'm pretty confident. I did this study, and I'll land here. I remember in our assembly when I did a lesson on names have meaning, and I got all the names of everyone, and I began to give the definition of their names, and every last one of them, their behaviors lined up with their name.
That's powerful.
Every last one of them, their behaviors lined up with their name.
They didn't even know that.
They didn't even know that until I gave
We
them
talk
the
about adults
definition.
who grew up with these names.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
so glad you brought that up, Pastor, because that is powerful. Because these people who in your assembly grew up with these names, you found the meaning of their names, and they found out that, hey, that's how I've been acting.
Exactly. So think about it.
Wow.
We start speaking life over our children from the name that we give them from their birth.
That's right.
My brother nickname was Little Man. And when you do this psychological analysis on him, you'll see that he operated as a little man. It took him almost 60 years to realize he was more than what he allowed himself to become. And that was his nickname, Little Man.
So you're saying that we can put ourselves in verbal prisons?
Absolutely.
As
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that other people outside of our race for centuries has called us names, and we became the byword, and we've been called this and said less than. But then it got ingrained in us that we keep ourselves in those verbal prisons.
Exactly. And think about how Jacob got his name. YAHAWAH, right? Aquab means hill. You know what I mean? His name means hill grabber. And he received that name because of when Esau came out, Jacob was holding on to his heel. Now, technically, you could say that's the bucket of crab because his brother's coming out and he's holding on to his heel. So I'm not even going to insult the crabs because most don't even understand when crabs do that. It's a defensive mechanism when crabs hold on to each other to make themselves appear to be larger than what they are as a group. So if let's just say a stingray comes to try to eat one of them, it can differentiate this large mass. This large mass appears to be one body. So, but Jacob's name means hill grabber. And when you think about it, he had trouble with wrestling with things he shouldn't wrestle with. When you think about his love for, Rachel, he loved her. Rebecca, right? His love for her was so strong that he would not let it go. He was willing to compromise, and he ended up doing 21 years of basically enslavement to her father because of he would not let that thing go and do things in the right manner according to the Most High. And when he when he wrestled with the angel knows what we're saying, wrestle, and he said, "I won't let go," right?
Right.
So we know that was part of his character of wrestling with things, and really lines up with Apostle Paul. We wrestle not with flesh and blood.
That's right.
Right. And so once there, the lesson that he learned was not to wrestle, but be what? A overcomer. Because really, when you start looking at the name Israel, it means overcomer. So he went from being a heel grabber to being an overcomer. He had to learn that he don't need to be in that reputation of wrestling with things. Like he wrestled with his relationship with his brother. He wrestled with how is this promises that the Most High made to his mother while they were in the womb. How is that going to how is it going to manifest in his life? And so what happened? You had parents wrestling with favoritism,
right?
Trying to make sure that the father, he was all about Esau. He was like the man's man, and Jacob was like the mama's boy. So you see the a lot of the generational curses being established just from how the parents themselves approached their children, and they created that sibling rivalry. So it's so many different things to unpack. But going back to the name, that's the thing that we focused on in our ministry for years. And you've been there. You hear them say, if I say, what is the Hebrew word for name? They'll say Sham. What does it mean? Because it's not just about the literal name, but the reputation behind the name.
Exactly. And that's what has been tarnished in the mindset of most of Israel. And when I'm saying Israel, the Israelite, the people that have been oppressed for hundreds and hundreds of years, that reputation behind his name and the reputation behind the name that he put upon us, the overcomers. We've been beat down that we don't think that we can overcome. And these conditions are some of the things we want to get into today, because I believe that in doing this awakening, and correct me if I'm wrong or add to it, that because of so many of these psychosis and trauma, generational curses that we bring on, that's the stronghold that Hasatan is holding over our people. Now, I'm going to play a clip from Pastor Dr. Fred Price. And this is why we honored him weeks back of being one of the forerunners of this awakening. But I want you to listen to something he said in this message. Pay close attention.
I just don't see why Dr. Price is wasting all this time dealing with that. What difference does it make? Well, I understand. See, it's all of a sudden now it doesn't make a difference because it's not about you. I pick up on that. I can understand that rationale. See, it's about us now, so now it don't make a difference. But it did make a difference as long as you were in charge. Then it was very important. So important that you even put signs up and said white only.
That's right. Amen. Amen.
Don't tell me, don't lie to me and tell me it doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference when it's in your favor. But if it's not in your favor, then we don't need to discuss this. It's tut, tut, Brother Price, Brother Price, Brother Price. You were doing so well before you started on it. But we don't need to. Yes, we do.
Now, to add context to this clip I'm playing, this is probably midway in his years-long of sermons, race, racial and prejudice, race, religion, and prejudice. And he's received a lot of pushback from the white church, and also he received a lot of financial consequences because he took a stand on racism. But he's going to point out, as a person who's been in ministry for years, he's going to point out a point of brainwashing that he admit that he had.
And all of this has been in the Bible all this time. Oh, my God. Sure enough, didn't know this. And I'm telling you, every time I think about it, I kick myself in the backside. I really do. I kick myself with both feet at the same time. Said, how could you have been so ignorant, so stupid, so dumb not to have seen it? And I mean, I have read the New Testament over 180 times. And didn't even see it, as smart as me is. That's why we need to go over it. But you see, when you're so conditioned to everything being white, you folk of other ethnicities, whites and reds and browns and yellow. See, it's difficult for you to relate, and I can understand that. That's why I have compassion on you. Because I know if you haven't been in the condition, you can't even understand how a brainwashing has been so thoroughly done on us. Amen. That when we look, we see white. Even when it's black, we see white. Stimulus response. We're the prime example of Pavlov's dog. We salivate even when there is no food in sight. We've been conditioned to do it. And so every time I read everything I read, it's white. Everything is white. Everybody's white. God is white. Everybody's white. To do it. And so every time I've read everything I read, it's white. Everything is white. Everybody's white. God is white. Everybody's white. We salivate even when there is no food in sight. We've been conditioned to do it. And so every time I've read everything I read, it's white. Everything is white. Everybody's white. God is white. Everybody's white. So I never even looked to see if I was in there or if anybody else was in there. It's like the whole universe is white.
Message. Now here's a man who's been in ministry for years, and he said in one part he said he read the New Testament over 180 times. But just like me coming into the work, and I did the same thing. I read things, I didn't see it that way because I've been conditioned. I was controlled. I was brainwashed to see one way. Any comments, Pastor?
You hit it on the nail, and I think we all, you and I, we discussed this offline, and we've been there. And I've shared it a number of times with our assembly that, you're reading the scriptures that you done read over and over again, and then suddenly you read that same passage over, and you see something that you were not, that you were conditioned not to see.
Exactly.
You running around a house like, who put this in? Who did this? Who's the wise? Who might, because it's like, no way I read
Connection
this
between
so many times. There's no way that I read this so many times and I didn't see that. For me, it was John chapter 8. And you've been there before. When you closing out your sermons, there's certain passages you use to close it out, and the truth, and the truth shall, how it goes.
Yep.
And so that's how you're taught to the I would say the brainwashing, so to speak, on how to put together a sermon and keep people in certain spaces. But nevertheless, I was reading John chapter 8, and I said, you know what? I'm going to actually do a in-depth teaching on it instead of just how it goes, just instead of the surface, the get everyone riled up. I said I want to do an in-depth teaching on John chapter 8, and it shifted. It changed my whole trajectory because I'm like, wait a minute. Christ said to them, they said to the Messiah, we be Abraham's seed, but never knew bondage. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm running through the house. Who put this here? I done read this so many times. So I'm just using that as an example of how you can read based upon how you're conditioned to read. And approach things. And actually, if you don't mind, I want to share my screen about Emory University. This is from a lesson I did ages ago about strongholds.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And let me share this with you real quick. All right, let's see here. All right. Here we go. All right. Did it come up on your end?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna just skip to this slide. Now, this is I use the same slides and Leave the World Behind. But this is scientifically, scholars proved
We on the same. That's as good. Go ahead, Pastor.
that strongholds are real.
Yes.
Right? It's not just something that just a term that is created by religion. Strongholds are real. Generational curses are real. So this is coming from Emory University. This article is titled "Mice Can Inherit Learned Sensitivity to a Smell." All right. So that's that's what we're going to really build from within this article. And this is a couple of bullets from it. I don't think I have all the slides in this one, but I found this presentation that had some of it on here. But look at what it says. It says mice can inherit learned sensitivity to a smell.
Yes.
Trauma scars, let me say it again. Trauma can scar people so indelibly that their children are affected. History provides examples of generations traumatized by war and starvation, whose children experience altered I can't even. I'm not sure why I can't even read today. Physiology. All right. It goes on to say here, new researchers at York National Primate Research Center, Emory University, have found an instance of animals passing on more specific information about a traumatic experience to their offsprings. That information comes not through social communication, but through inheritance. And this is what's really key. It says researchers have found that when a mouse learns to become afraid of a certain odor, her pups will be more sensitive to that odor, even though the pups have never encountered it. Right. And it goes on to say, Diaz and Ressler trained mice to become afraid of an odor by pairing exposure to the odor with a mild electric shock. Now you see how they're programming it, right? They're through electrical shocks. Whenever they smell this mild odor, now it's going to start triggering, you know, you know, all kinds of what's the word that I'm trying to think of? I can't think of the word. When people have these spells, when they feel like
Epilepsy.
what is it?
Epilepsy.
Not epilepsy. When people kind of burn out. I can't think of the term. I'm brain dead. Maybe because I'm running on fumes from last
Wow.
just so maybe that's
I
why I'm
knew why
kind of
when you said you didn't know why. I knew why.
yeah. So yeah, I can't think of the term, but there's a term anxiety. That's what I was looking for.
Anxiety attacks. Okay, yeah.
Anxiety attacks, right? Um, this right here is explaining how they are creating anxiety, pretty much anxiety attacks based on things that was already pre-programmed. Here it says, with these mice afraid of an odor by pairing exposure to the odor with a mild electric shock, they then measured how much the animal startled in response to a loud noise at baseline. So not only are they they're administering these electrical shocks, they're also startling it with loud noises.
All type of
So
trauma.
trauma, right? So they're creating trauma for these mice, and this is what's interesting here. It says here, in conjunction with the presentation of the odor. So every time they smelled this sweet smell, right, they would, shock them, and also loud noises would occur. Surprisingly, they found that the naive adult uh, offsprings of the oops, did I put it here? Ah, man, my apologies, man. I all over the place in my presentation. But nevertheless, let me go back here. Um, Sensitized mice also startle more in response to the particular odor. So what they're saying here is that the first generation of mice, they did these performed these actions on them. They subjected them to the electrical shocks, this loud noises, and as it says here, in addition, they were more able to detect small amounts of that particular odor. Smell sensitized offsprings were not more anxious in general in separate experiments not involving odor. But Diaz found that the mice were not more afraid to explore the bright. That's getting into it. Let me see here. This is the key right here. Diaz Ressler took advantage of previous research on biology of odor detection. Scientists knew that the chemical acetophin, I'm not butchering it here, uh, which smells somewhat like cherry blossom. So they took this chemical. What is it? Is it acetophin phenome? I don't know.
That's an F. Acetophin.
Yeah, acetone, something like that. We both butchering it, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is not our genres family. So anyway, but the key here, it says they subjected this chemical to these mice, which smells somewhat like cherry blossom. So they given them this sweet smell, right? Activates a particular set of cells in the nose and in a particular odorant receptor. But it goes on to say they found that both mothers and fathers can pass on a learned sensitivity to an odor, although mothers can't do it with foster pups. So, what that means is through their bloodline, through their DNA, they're able to pass down these traumatic experiences. So, where it says foster pups, these are mice that was added, that was not born or come out of this generation of mice. These were ones that was added to it afterwards. And it says, in a nutshell, just trying to see here, Diaz discovered that DNA from the sperm of a smell sensitized father mice is altered. So what this is saying is that I didn't put it all in here. I'll just explain it real quick. So what they're saying is that traumatic experiences altered the DNA of the mice. Those that did not go through that traumatic experience, those that were not part of the initial, come from that lineage, they didn't experience these things. They didn't have the same phobias and anxiety when they smelled that scent of cherries. But the mice that did and the offsprings, they did. And as you can see here, it says that DNA from the sperm of the smell sensitized father mice is altered. So this lines up with Adam, right? Adam and Eve, because once sin entered, their bodies changed. Their anatomies changed. So from that point on, guess what? That imprint has been left on each and every one of us. So it's kind of like that thing of, and I think all of us have this before you look in your family tree or you're looking at some of the common attributes of your family, whether it's sports, whether it's singing, whatever the case may be. But then you see one it's like, where did this come from? Where did this behavior come from? You see a behavior that's not the norm. And I'm saying it in a negative way. And you look in there, you're like, where did this behavior come from? So we have scientific proof that your traumatic experiences can alter your DNA. And this is just a medical or technology proof from that angle, scientific proof that strongholds are real. Strongholds are real, and they can be created by traumatic experiences. Now tying this over to, the transatlantic world war, we've been subjected to a number of traumatic experiences throughout the whole ordeal that is still with us today, from even how we discipline each other.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that earlier because we do things, guys, and I want everybody to understand what he just said. Now, we talked very little about this, but I got a video clip on the exact same study you just pulled up. I'm going to share it after this. But we've been conditioned as a people in this land, how we discipline our kids, how we interact with stress in our house. We've been conditioned through trauma that we didn't receive directly, but our great grandparents did. That trauma passes down.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. That it may seem so insignificant. It may not seem like it's a big deal of some of the things that we have gone through or we've allowed ourselves to go through. What I mean by that is making certain decisions that can self-inflict trauma, so to speak. That still have an impact on your DNA. You have children that can have an impact on your children.
But generation after generation. I'm going to show this video. Just it goes on what you was talking about, Pastor. Hold on.
There is a connection between genetics and trauma. What we've discovered is trauma is information that can be stored at a genetic level and passed down through generations. 5 generations after the actual trauma actually happened, you can have post-traumatic symptoms still coming out in some of those people. And so that in itself is nothing more than a concept that is interesting. The reality is becoming aware and conscious of who you are and how you operate based on whatever those epigenetics are. There's been a disproportionate amount of my work that has been clearing ancestral stuff, especially the last probably year, unrealizing, because I've just thought it was all mine, and then about a year ago I started having some really interesting stuff happening and I realized I was clearing stuff that wasn't mine, and I just found it super, super interesting. But
after being kidnapped, raped, and held as an 18-year hostage, J.C. Lee Dugard was rescued. But rather than condemning her captor, she shockingly referred to him as a great guy.
On the surface, Dugard's behavior seems bizarre, but it's typical of a psychological phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome. Victims of Stockholm Syndrome develop compassion and loyalty towards their captors. The condition follows psychologically traumatizing situations like hostage situations and kidnappings.
My father's older than you, and he tells me stories about, how he grew up and he worked on a plantation. And he did say, he got along with,
I was there.
He was there before
and
you.
Black
He's
people
older than
and
you.
white people got along
He's older than
way
you.
better than they do today.
What?
Because the white people are sick of the black people. Everybody.
You said sick of dogs on them? What'd you say?
I said that white people and black people got along way better than they are today.
You said the water hoses?
I said that white people are sick of the blacks complaining.
You said the lynchings?
So what though?
The lynchings?
Did you know that there were, I think, something like 4,000 blacks who own slaves?
4,000 blacks who own slaves?
In Kentucky or one of those areas.
What
You didn't
source
know
is that? No, what's your source?
One of my hosts talked about it the other day
Who?
on the show. But you didn't know that.
No, what's the source?
All your little black supremacy book. You didn't look that up.
No. What source is that?
Let's do this. We'll
That's
get it
a
for
lie.
you. Put it up there.
You ever heard of the book by James Lowe, The Lies My History Teacher Told Me? That would be in it. That's a lie.
Why don't black people just kind of move on with their lives and stop this mess that they're in? If they're superior, why don't they somehow or another let their little superior stuff kick in and stop blaming and living in the past, which had nothing to do with them, by the way. Living in the past and blaming the whites and other. At what point will they say, you know what, we had enough complaining and being victims and talking about this mess. Let's show everybody what we can do. Why don't they forget about the past and live in the present?
Look, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
That is a case in point of Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
And
I think he does that. And sometimes I think he purposely try to push certain buttons, because you can't be that extreme with his view when it comes to some of the things he say. But yeah, he's good with putting those type of comments out there, like he's like, to your point of Stockholm Syndrome,
right?
And even going back to the generational curses, I'll put up on your screen, just some things from some images that I have on what we had gone through as a people, that we could still see the behaviors today. I'm not sure. Well, I can't say today, but I know at least in our generations, the way that we were beaten, right? That they called it, a beating. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you've been there before. I know I have. Been, depending on how bad they consider what you had done, you can be told to lay down on the floor or lay across the bed, pretty much like this, and take all your clothes off. Where did that behavior come from?
That behavior is something that we ourselves have not been conditioned to, but our forefathers have.
Exactly.
And it's funny, if you and I could have done this together, we could have been more in sync. What I'm talking about, because guys, I wanted to show some of this. First, number one, we have been brainwashed. We have been subjected to trauma, and some of us don't know it. And that's what's keeping us from the truth. Because the Bible said that deception, that great deception, that's the stronghold that gives the deception a place in our psyche, the way we think, the way we operate. Like Pastor Price said, things he read over and over again, the deception in his mind, the condition he had, kept him from seeing himself. It keeps us from seeing who we are, who Yah has for us. And Pastor, I'm glad you showed us. Watch this.
There will be some images that may make some viewers uncomfortable.
If you remember the movie Roots, the Kunta Kinte character was the last one to hold on to his name and to remember his past. They had to brutally break him.
Your name is Toby. You're going to learn to say your name. Let me hear you say it. What's your name?
Kunta Kinte.
During this time, they would break a slave, and everyone had to watch. Man, woman, child. They need to know that if they transgress the law, the master's law, they will receive the same punishment or worse. I stopped right there. Look at the eyes. And these are actors, but just think about standing there. And who did he make do the whipping? Another slave. One of us. What kind of conditioning was this to our people? Your response, Pastor?
And actually, I want to show you something here. Let me see if I have it here. Right? Because I'm going to show you, family, what you see here is not coincidental. It's real. Let me copy this over here. I want to show you something here. This is for those that are watching this for the first time. And I want to show you that this is, true of what you see in Roots. And I want to take you to someone that's very notable on what he had to go through. Is the screen still up? I can't see it on my end. All right. Now peep this, right? And I know you're probably familiar with this guy. Equiano, Olaudah Equiano.
Yeah.
Right? And look at what he went through. While I was on board this ship, my captain and master named me Gustavus Vasa. I at that time began to understand him a little, and I refused to be called so, and told him as well as I could that I would be called, look at the name,
Jacob.
But he said I should not, and still called me Gustavus when I refused to answer to my new name, which at first I did. It gained me many cuff. In other words, he was beaten a number of times and had it beaten out of him. And that's pretty much the point that I wanted to bring out, according to what you just pointed out. And family, this is when we start understanding these prophecies, especially when we start dealing with the mark of the beast and all that stuff. If we're still thinking that the mark of the beast is to come, then we're still looking at the scriptures from a Eurocentric perspective. Because he's being told, no, your name is no longer going to be this, because he said Jacob, and he's from the tribe, he's from the Igbo.
Come on.
He's from the Igbos, and the Igbos are proven to be descendants of Israel. So he's an Igbo slave being told that his name is going to be changed to Gustavus Vasa. And he said, no, call me Jacob.
The Most High has been putting this on my heart this whole week, brother, because I sat down and every once in a while, you know how we like to dig and read and break up the word. I can do it all day long. Every once in a while, I break away from it and do something just relaxing. So I was listening to a podcast called 154, ONE 54, and it's a professional football player who's Nigerian, and Godfrey, the comedian. They do it together. They're both Nigerian, and they talk about the culture of being African in America. And they also, I think, only done 3 series, but they interview other Nigerian people who they either from the Igbo or Yoruba tribe and all this stuff, and they talk about coming up, and they all start about their names, And each one of the names of each one of the people that came on the show so far, the name had mean God this, God this, God. Their name meant something, and it was talking about how intentional their parents were by their name. Yeah, you have a name for this country, but your name is this. So the name was
Absolutely.
important.
Names is so important, and so family. Just as Berean scholar laid out, you know, uh, going back to the true image of the Most High, they know who we are.
Yes.
And as you see here, this is an example of here's someone that was forced into slavery on the slave ships, because that was one of the narratives that many from the those that are opposing us in this awakening, they would come up with all kinds of talking points stating that, well, there was no slaves, Hebrew slaves on the slave ships. There's no examples of any Hebrew slaves on the slave ships. But yet we have one of the world renowned famous slaves who wrote his own autobiography
The first.
showing, and they were literally trying to erase his autobiography. They gave him all kinds of flack when you read it, but he's making it clear that he made it clear that his name is Jacob. And he even pointed out some of the culture that lines up with scripture. So this ties into the playbook that is being used on our community from the 83rd book of Psalms, when it says that they want to make sure the name of Israel is no longer in remembrance.
Yeah.
And so when we see the name, like we talked about, reputation. So we no longer understand, can identify with the literal name, nor the reputation that goes along with that the literal name, and and also the bloodline. So we wouldn't know the father's information as far as his name. We wouldn't know our language. We wouldn't know any of those things. But what's being passed down to us from the very ones that basically took it from us. And we see this playing out right in front of us inside this autobiography here.
Yep.
So yeah, when you played the Roots, because I do have a video that I'm not sure if you saw it. It was called Road to Savannah Part 2.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
And I bring a lot of this out in terms of some of the traumatic experiences there inside that series, just so that way people can see that, man, that Deuteronomy 28, the consequences are real.
Exactly. And it's real. And just like Pastor said, that they have intentionally tried to blot us out, wipe away the name of Israel from our minds, not to let us know who we are, a language, a lands, a name, a people. And then on top of that, just like they did, just like YouTube did you a couple times, they threw a couple other things in there. They threw trauma, they threw post-traumatic, they threw all that on it, rape, they threw all that on us too.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we mess you up forever. That when you do wake up, you got to dig out of so many layers of missing some information, education, that you don't know which way is up. We'll put up this slide.
And while you're doing that, it makes me think about too the educational system. And this is one of the things I believe many don't really understand about the educational system. The educational system was put in place not for us. The college institutions and all, their whole purpose, as far as the whole goal, was to show the slave owners and the educators how to manage their property.
Yep.
Which we fell up under the property. The whole institution, from these Ivy League schools to Georgetown, all, they used us as collateral to build up these institutions. But the institutions were not designed for us. It was designed for them. And so, every facet of this government, you'll see that the whole goal of those organizations was not for our advantage; it was for their advantage and for our disadvantage.
And it's all because the warfare is one place. It's over our minds, the mind of his chosen people, because we're the key, guys. And if that's messed up, then the enemy can win. And then I think we're talking about that's why you go ahead and explain what we're talking about. Jacob is the beginning, Esau the end, because that's if he can mess that up, that's what Hasatan want to mess up.
And so we're dealing with the spirit, right? And that's one of the things that we can mess up. When I say mess up, many can take it out of context when we start understanding the Jacob and Esau situation, right? It wasn't about skin complexion, but it had everything to do with their spirit. You have the spirit of two brothers, one, as you would say, like you pointed out with the prophecy, Esau is the end,
right,
and Jacob is the beginning. So when we unpack that, we're dealing with the spirit. We're dealing with the spirit of Esau and the spirit of Jacob. And so the spirit of Esau, the whole purpose of the spirit of Esau is to kill, is to destroy. It's to ultimately kill the promised seed of Jacob. That's the whole purpose, and that's why the Messiah said in John chapter 8 that he knew their father, in far as their father being the devil.
Yeah.
Because, and then he goes on to say that, and I'm just paraphrasing that, if they were truly Abraham's seed, in other words, of the promise, they would not be trying to kill him. So
Yep.
Jacob and Esau represents good and evil. It takes you all the way back to the very first prophecy that was made in Genesis chapter 3, the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. So it takes us all the way back there. So that's the key. Esau represents the evil. It represents the whole goal to destroy the promise. Jacob, that's the spirit of the promise. So in the womb, there was two manners of people there that will be the father of communities, and that's what it is. It's their spirit, it's their temperament.
And that's still playing out today in what we went through as a people here in this land of our captivity. And I got the scripture up here from Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And what we've been doing, we've been conditioned to think that we're less than, that we're not. Some don't think we're human. In fact, in other early theologians, they didn't think that Adam and Eve produced us. We were one of the animals that were made between on the other day, not the 6th day, but before then. Correct, Pastor?
Yeah.
So
And
we was nothing.
Yeah. And you hit it on right on the nail. And this is in religion. There's a number of books out there where, of course, we were looked at as beast. And to your point, that we were created on the 5th day, according to them.
And for those of you, I'm not going to get into the other thing, but we use a book and I'm going to use your term in our Hebrew Israelite starter kit that points to not the Negro, but that came from one of those doctrines, from one of those philosophy that racist scientists was saying that men were breeded from animals. black men was breeded from animals. We were the evolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's get back on this. I don't know. Get on that. But you see it in Second Corinthians, or as our president, 2 Corinthians, as our president say, 2 Corinthians 10, verse 4 and 5. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yah to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imagination and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Yah, and bringing it into captivity, every thought to obedience to the Mashiach, every thought to the obedience of Mashiach. All these areas, imaginations, everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yah, bringing captive thoughts, is in the mind. And that's where we've been attacked at mostly. The weapons of warfare, carnals is the Hebrew word is kanar, meaning flesh, physical, temporal. The concept is not a human strength or logic. The things that come in is not a fleshy thing, but like Pastor said, is a spirit. The spirit that's coming against us, that's prominent in this world. Now fleshy thing has happened to us. We just showed you video and stuff that has happened to us. But the point of everything is to imprison our mindsets. Cast down imagination and every high thing that exalted itself in 2 Corinthians, the imagination, Makasha Barak, the thoughts, the schemes. Paul was describing spiritual warfare that was fought with not with physical weapons, but with truth, prayer, divine power. Stronghold represents mental and spiritual fortresses, ideologies, lies, and psychological systems that resists the truth of the YAHAWAH's truth. Now, you and I have been talking before, Pastor, and I remember you saying that, more and more I'm learning, I'm seeing how Christianity was designed to keep us from knowing Yah's purpose in our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And family, when you say Christianity, Catholicism is lumped right up with it. I know now many try to make the separation, but Christianity, Catholicism, they're lumped together.
I guess we should say Judeo-Christian thought, universal Judeo. How can I put them all in one word?
Yeah, Judeo-Christian Catholic. Yeah.
In that case, Islam, Seventh-day Adventists, all that is designed to keep us from Yah's purpose and Yah's relationship. That's the psychological systems, false doctrines. You see, the next one's in model parallels, false doctrine, religious traditions, self-exaltation, false identity. Who are we? False identity. We've been told that we're one thing when we're not, and we've been shown pictures, and we hear from the media somebody else is the chosen people who are not.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, and you and I discussed this offline, but more and more we are seeing that many of these different spaces, Christian spaces, are now starting to acknowledge that these 1948ers are not the people, but they don't want to concede and say that we're the people. They'll still go into the other stuff. Anyone but us. They'll rather say, the Palestinians.
And
before they say us.
you're right. That's the thing. The new thing that we're saying now is that when they're killing the Palestinians, they're killing people who are more Jewish than the ones who are killing them.
Yeah.
And that's the false identity. That's that self-exaltation, that exalt himself to be in the place of being the chosen. I can get off on another one because I've seen another person saying that they were the chosen people. But anyway, eternal struggles, fear, doubt, pride. The goal is to bring every thought captive to the obedience of YAHAWASHA, who is our high priest to this new covenant. Everything into obedience of YAHAWASHA, because he is the life, the truth, and the way. Now, the Hebrew reflection is the ancient warfare strongholds were fortified cities and on a hill, like before they took Jerusalem. It was a fortified city with walls and stuff like this. But in spiritual, they represent fortified beliefs in our mind. Paul uses imageries because the battlefield is in the mind. And victory is won through renewing the thoughts. Guys, we need to renew our thoughts. We have to be washed with the word, and not just the word that you read, just like Pastor Price said, some things we've been reading for years and we haven't seen it in the correct way. We need to know what the word says to us, who YAHAWASHA is, and what he said how he said to walk. Because tradition and Christianity is giving us nothing but lies. When I say Christian, I mean Catholicism and all the other isms that are out there. Any comments, Pastor?
No, you hit it on it. You hit it on the nail. Hit it on the nail. Don't want to interrupt your flow. You're rolling.
Well,
I'm not going to say what I normally say to you offline.
I know you. Don't mess me up, bro. I love you, bro. Romans 12. Let me put this up. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of YAHAWAH, that you present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy, set apart, acceptable unto the Most High, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewance of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh.
Though, is it really such a bad idea to put out that podcast?
Yeah, very bad idea.
But what if it helps? Makes people have empathy for him. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Controls the mind. Controls the mind.
You just quote Stalin?
Jim Morrison?
Well, you had a point.
Control the mind. Control over your mind. And see, here's the thing about it. Everything in scriptures, this is why Yah in his mercy and his grace made sure when Moses sat down and wrote and had the first books written down, that he would put images of who we are in the scripture. He would leave clues to show that you are there. Just like the image we see in Daniel 7, how he described his vision. He sees a garment white as snow, and his hair was like wool, pure wool. We know who has woolly hair. His body was like a beryl stone, jasper. What color is that? I mean, these things were put there so we know who we are. And I know, Pastor, you can go on and give me verse upon verse where it describes us, it goes out and says that we're black. And it says that, like in this Ezekiel, other vision that Ezekiel had, that shows imagery to show who we are.
but they try to beat that out of us.
Absolutely. You see it in Revelation, from Revelation, what's that chapter, either chapter 5 or chapter 6, the one who sit on the throne, as you pointed out in Daniel, as you pointed out in Ezekiel chapter 1. I mean, we have so many different examples. But again, as Dr. Price pointed out, the way that we were programmed was to always see them. I mean, and think about that psychologically, right? Think about this, our ancestors who've been forced into slavery, right? Now, they've been forced into a religion about identity, so to speak, that basically took their identity rather, and then teaching them salvation and putting images of themselves, as far as the oppressors, in front of them. So and that's when you start getting into the Stockholm syndrome, the what's that, the
Generational
cognitive
trauma.
dissonance. You
Generational
start
trauma.
getting into these contradictory behaviors because of that. And Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting at verse 28, it really talks about our mindset. It says here, Yahweh shall smite thee with madness,
Madness, yes.
blindness, astonishment of heart, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. And what's interesting also is, right, if you skip down to verse 34, it says, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. So what's so interesting in this is which the passages in between, you know what I mean, that's going to contribute to this madness. Can you imagine this? Verse 30 says, thou shalt betroth a wife. You gonna have someone that you want to target, that you the love your life, you want to marry, you want to get engaged, you're gonna establish that foundation, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes. Can you imagine that? And it goes on in verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them. You see all the mental things that it's pointing out.
Yeah.
The very things that we're laying out here. Verse 33, the fruit of thy labor and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away. So that means that everything that we do, this enemy or these enemies, they're going to constantly exploit it. And it's showing the mental fatigue that comes with the territory. I'm sure you've been there before. You spent a lot of time working on a project only to find out the project's been canceled.
Exactly.
That can take a lot out of you, and family, think about what they've done. It's saying that they're going to build up all these different types of communities, and they're not going to be able to enjoy none of it. Someone else will enjoy it.
And that ox, a lot of people, when you read it, because the Bible is written to people, our ancestors, in a certain time, and we hear it, and it don't hit us just right. Your ox will be slain in front of you. Let's say your source of income, of livelihood, it will be destroyed right in your eyes.
Absolutely. So that ox, that's your number one source of income, and that's the very first letter of the Hebrew letters. And this is why the Messiah said, if your ox get caught in a ditch, in other words, if you have an issue with your income,
Yep.
are you going to let it sit? So to your point, that ox, their source of income, they're not going to be able to enjoy it. Someone else is going to enjoy the fruits of all of that. Said it'll kill the ox.
And not to be no, I don't want to get too heavy and too much, but I believe that we had to talk about this because until we can introspect and look at ourselves, sometimes we don't know trauma is there. You mentioned one time, Pastor, we were talking offline, how we were brought up, how we punished, how we react. And I look back, in my mind's eye, I saw myself as a little boy, and I remember those type of butt breaking that I got, you
Yeah.
know, and I remember how my family responded to trauma. The movie Sinners, the scene where they're driving and they see the prisoners on the side of the road, and the gentleman who was the jazz player was telling a story about what happened to him, and he stopped in the story and started rocking and rubbing his leg and humming and just humming music. When he did that, I saw my grandma. Because that's how we deal with trauma.
Yeah.
We carry that trauma.
Yeah. And to your point, man, that's why I wish if I could do it all over again. I wish I could have recorded the testimonies, some of the information that my grandmother, and I'm sure you can vouch for it, the things that they've gone through, and you realize that we were not far removed from slavery. My grandmother telling me about how she saw lynchings, saw how she saw bodies hanging from trees or mutilated in the woods and things like that, and how, it caused her as a young girl to run away to go to New Jersey, to go up north, because they saw things, man. And and I know some of you guys may think that the old school was just being harsh. My grandmother was adamant. She's like, you better not bring a white person into my house. If you was a guy, you better not bring a white girl in here. Or if you was to my cousin, you better not bring a white guy in here, because of all the traumatic things that they saw. And I can't even, I can only imagine. We can only imagine,
And we can understand why.
Exactly. And you can see now, like for me, when my grandmother really sat me down and talked to me about those things, it gave me more of an understanding why she functioned the way she functioned, why she moved the way that she moved, why she operate the way that she operated, why she would sit at the window until we got out of her sight if we were going off to school. You know what I mean? Because where they, you know this better than I do, because you lived in the South. It was no guarantee for our ancestors. They could be walking back from school and get picked up and never see them again, or see them hanging on a tree or somewhere, all over a bunch of nothing. Just some white guys want to have entertainment.
Exactly. And the reason why we talk about this is because in this awakening, we have new people coming in who get a part of a lot of strife and misteaching, and people bringing things over into the awakening from Christianity because all the strife and all the trauma we got through our upbringing. And some of us had trauma in Christianity. There's a lot of church hurt that went around. And in fact, I remember as a pastor, one of my last sermons I did was about church hurt and how it was so common somebody should have stopped and said, well, why is it so common? What's so common about church hurt? Because it was done the wrong way. We didn't see that then. And I feel like Dr. Price, I didn't see that. How I didn't see that we did it the wrong way.
And part of it too is the makeup of, or should I say, the spirit, especially when it comes to our people, comes from slave masters teaching us the word. A lot of the assemblies on these plantations were the slave master teaching the word to his slaves, teaching what he wanted them to know and what he wanted them to learn, just to keep them in that suppressive state. So when we think about it, that's how we it's been rehearsed. Even though the slave Bible, remember the slave Bible?
Oh yeah.
Even though that slave Bible is not in the churches, so to speak, but guess what? The spirit is still there.
You're right about that.
You think about it. It's the spirit of those slave Bibles is still in the assembly.
And that slave Bible, and in fact, it's funny, they did that to us, but that soul spirit is on them too, because the scriptures they took out were mostly in the Torah and in the Old Testament. And in Christianity, they don't even touch those scriptures.
They don't touch it. So they're still teaching, even though they give you the whole Bible is there now. But you see, we were programmed still to hold on to that slave Bible, even though it's technically no longer in the church.
That goes back to the old saying: when you focus on keeping somebody else in prison, it also imprisons you, because you got to stay there, keep your head on your foot on his head.
Yeah,
you're in prison also.
Yeah. And family, I just encourage you guys, man. This is why the Messiah said, this spirit can only be dealt with through prayer and fasting.
Yes.
We have to really understand the importance of prayer and fasting. And as you pointed out, to renew our minds. How do we renew our minds? Apostle Paul said, I beseech you, my brother, by the mercy of YAHAWAH, that you offer yourselves a living sacrifice. We got to stop lifting up dead things to him. Living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to YAHAWAH, which is our reasonable service. Be ye therefore, that's what goes into the text that you highlighted. Be ye therefore, or be not conformed to this world, but be ye therefore transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? So we need to basically renew our mind off of the foundational things that we just talked about. Not refresh, because if we refresh, kind of like your browser, right? You hit the refresh so that way it display the information on the screen that's already there. When we want to get to that renewing, we have to go back in the word, the re, which is the word forming element that says, get back by undoing. So if we want to get back to the we want to refresh or renew our minds, we got to go all the way back to the original template. That's free from the church.
And to get into geek mode, I want to just delete my hard drive.
Yeah.
Put in a new software.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff that was put up was corrupt.
Yeah.
And we're saying this, guys, family. And I say family, because we need to be renewed by the right software. The word of the Most High that He gave to us through the laws, prophets, and disciples, the right way, not by the Western theologian that we all been taught. I put in the chat, somebody was saying, a link to this video I have on my site about the generation traumas. A lot more in there about the trauma and how it affects us. Go ahead and look at it if you want to, show it, because we need to be healed. If we don't recognize we have those traumas, you don't see them in ourselves. Like I was trying to share, my grandma had that type of trauma. She could not talk about anything that happened bad in our family without just stopping and just rocking, and
Yeah.
That's how our people dealt with it.
Yeah.
Mom, everything went down there.
Yeah.
And we dealt with disciplining our kids and our family the same way they dealt with stuff. And in the church, we did it the same way because that's the way we was taught to do it.
Yeah.
We hucked and bucked and shook because that's how we saw. Not it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily the spirit, this is how we was taught. But now we're in the newness of light.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace the word and eat it up.
And you know, even with the images that you have on the screen damaged, right? It makes me think about when you think about a crack pot, right? A crack pot, and you know when you try to get that pot back together, it's still going to be certain gaps in it. You know, no matter how you break a vase, you break a glass, you try to glue it back together. Remember, some of the old school, they break a vase, they did everything to glue it, but it's still missing certain pieces. You just can't get every piece. And this is where we start understanding the spirit of the Most High. You know, when they would put up the tabernacle, uh, for the final approval, Yah's spirit will come down and rest on it, fill it up, right? So when they put it up, there's going to be some gaps. But when that cloud comes in, that anan, that's the Hebrew word for it, it's going to fill in every place that may have gaps. So we all have been damaged.
Yes.
But the good thing about it is, those cracks that may seem like it cannot come, it's not joining together. That Holy Spirit is the glue to that. It fills in those spaces and it's a reminder that we cannot fix ourselves. That it's the Spirit of the Most High that's going to join the broken pieces back together.
Amen. Amen. And we need to know, guys, we need to know that that's not us anymore. He comes to heal us. He comes to deliver us. We don't have to walk in the curses anymore. We don't have to walk in those things anymore because we are created in Yah's image.
Yeah.
We are his chosen people. And we can call on the Father and he will hear us. If only we turn from our wicked ways.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is a great discussion. And family, you when you read the scripture, you'll see a lot of traumatic experiences. And you'll also see a lot of results, behaviors that are based on traumatic experiences. When you start thinking about going back again to Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
Esau threatened to take Jacob's life. So Jacob had to flee. That's a traumatic experience. Esau had a traumatic experience when he found out his brother stole his blessing. And it created what? Animosity.
Right.
Between their bloodlines, their generations to come, their descendants to come. So we see traumatic experiences that come that's based off of decisions that was made that affected the generations to come. Remember David. David, the Most High told him he was going to have strife within his household. That was going to be his judgment.
Yep.
And he said, "My sins are forever before me." So all through the scriptures, we see traumatic experiences, but we know that if we just get back to that very thing that the Most High wants us to do, and that's, seek Him. Seek Him. If my people that are called by my name humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will heal their land. So we have the playbook on restoration. It's just that can we commit ourselves to doing the things that He called us to do to get back there? It takes a lot to turn, right? That's what I said, turn from their wicked ways.
Right.
It's hard for many to turn from wicked ways, from wickedness, because truth be told, wickedness can be very addictive.
And that's the part about humbling ourselves. We have to humble ourselves to say that I was wrong.
I was wrong. Because, man, family, when we think of wickedness, we automatically think of, we go to the extremities of it. Like we go to like if we're murdering someone, like physically taking someone's life. And that's why the Messiah had to make it clear that, hey, you're murdering someone when you kill their character.
Exactly.
When you kill someone's character, that's murder. You know, wickedness is not just, let's just say, murdering or beating someone up physically, but you could really uh, uh, leave a person traumatized just with words.
Exactly.
And that's why the scripture says we was going to become a what? A byword, an astonishment, a proverb. And those words, they echo. And think of what some of the stereotypes we deal with right now as a people. And you played in the clip when it was talking, referring to black on black crime, or the person saying, I don't fear anyone else but being around our own people.
It's that ingrained self-hate because we became that.
To your point, we became exactly what they want us to be. And sometimes if you get things rehearsed to you over and over again, and I'm sure you heard this before, hey, if you're going to keep accusing me of doing this, I might as well do it.
Exactly.
And that's the mindset of many young people. If you're going to keep saying that I'm no good, or I'm not going to amount to anything, well, there's no need of me trying to amount to something good. I might as well be the thing that you believe that I'm going to be. And that's that problem.
And that's why the spirit of Esau has control of the airwaves, control of the media, control of the music industry, control of the seminaries. The seminaries that teaches our people who are in the pulpit, and all we hear is those conditionings to keep our minds controlled. I like this clip. I'm gonna play again.
Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. Controls the mind. Controls the mind.
And that comes from the thought of whoever controls the pages controls your thoughts.
Ah, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
say
so
that
that's
again,
what that
Pastor.
comes from.
Say that again. Whoever
Yeah,
controls the pages.
whoever controls the pages control your thoughts.
Break that down. Break that down for us. I know what you're talking about. Break it down. Make it simple.
And think about it, family. If we're reading certain things and words get taken out, those people that control. Let's get to the translations and transliterations. You have people that purposely decides what words get put in. So if I put the word Lord versus the actual name, even if it's just the letters, the consonants, then now I'm controlling what you say.
Exactly.
Now I'm controlling how you interpret things, like the word Lord in God. Those words, whoever control the pages, they control your thoughts. Now think about how many of us been programmed that way. We can't, and I'm sure you had to deal with this a number of times. I'm going to
All the
keep
time.
using God.
Yep.
I'm going to use God. Wait a minute. God is not even an ancient word. So whoever controls the pages, and this is where, in other words, we need to get control of our narrative.
Yes.
Those are our pages.
Yes.
And how do we get control of it? Is that now we have to start teaching it properly. Going back to your point, we got to erase our hard drives.
Yes.
We've been hacked with a bug, right? And so sometimes, and I'm going really geek mode here. Sometimes you have to just completely wipe the hard drive clean. In other cases, you have to go even further. You have to erase the device that the hard drive is connected to. And this is where you get into what is called the master boot record, right? So you have the hard drive, you have the master boot record, right? That tells all your devices how to load up. So we have to erase the hard drive and even erase the things that our hard drives are even connected to and start over. So again, This is why we have to learn. I mean, get back to the basics. We
Yes.
gotta really understand that as Hebrew scholar, Berean scholar rather, and myself and some others that are doing. It's like, look, we got to get back to the original language. We got to start unpacking these different layers that was added to it. It may not seem like it's a big deal. Well, instead of saying Yah versus ye, well, Christ said, don't even change the letters. Don't even modify the hair of any letter. So Christ stressed to his disciples, don't even try to change any of the words of these pages. Because if you change a letter, you can change the word. You change that word, you change what redemption is. And one of the key letters they changed is taking the yod and making it yod.
Mm.
Taking it from being an outstretched arm to being some modified, diluted, or should I say, I would say some type of mutation. You know what I mean? I always say, got a haircut.
Yeah. You
So
change the appearance when you get a haircut. You change the
change
appearance.
your appearance when you get a haircut. So the educational system that we have is put together by those that control the pages. The first universities were created by the Catholic Church. The seminaries, the first colleges were created by our oppressors. To do what? Change the word.
Exactly.
They write these laws to what? Reinforce their changes.
And they push their narrative.
So they are what? Controlling the pages. But just because they control the pages from their angle doesn't mean that we have to continue to relinquish that control. That means that we have to what? Put our due diligence in, put that work in, so that way, like we're doing right now, for those to get away from that stuff and get back to the original.
But I was in the chat. Somebody's putting up somebody else's site I don't know anything about. So, but
Yeah, family, let's be respectful. If you don't mind me saying this, if you have a suggestion, site that you want Berean Scholar to review, send it to his email.
please.
It's very disrespectful to post links to things that he haven't had the privilege to vetting before, because it could be some things inside there that may be not good, that he has to make sure that it doesn't seep into the people. And I know that, not saying any of you guys are doing it from a bad place, and you mean well, but we have to get out of that approach of just posting links to other things that the person didn't have chance to vet. Contact Berean Scholar. His email is there. He don't mind receiving your email, and he'll review it. But let's not post it into the chat and basically put him at a disadvantage from a perspective of not being able to vet first the information to determine whether or not if it's even good information.
And I think what I was seeing was they were promoting another YouTube teaching, which I don't know anything of. And the old adage, I've said it to you many times: when people eat off of different tables too many times, they end up getting sick. And if you like what we're sharing, thank you. If you want to produce what we share, help us get it out, please do. If you don't, that's okay. Like I like now, I've given you props 3 times, Pastor. Next time I say it's my saying. If you're seeking the truth, we should end up at the same address.
Absolutely.
So next time
Absolutely.
I'm taking the responsibility for that one. But if we all seeking the truth for the Most High, we're gonna end up in the same place. Yes, since we've been confused, brainwashed, everybody don't have the same idea what the name is. But we seeking the truth, we'll come up with that. Yes, we know we don't know the days and all that like we should, but that it's in the Bible. We can find that. We can grow together. When I was a baby, I walked and talked like a baby. But when I became a man, I studied, showed myself approval that I could walk and talk like a man. And I just put some scriptures together because that's what that meant. When I became a man, I put aside
Put
those things.
aside childish things.
I put aside. And how he put aside? Because he studied to show himself approval. He dug, he read, he was disciple. Paul, when he went to the road to Damascus, when he got knocked off his horse, when he was healed from his blindness, he didn't just jump in to start teaching.
Absolutely.
He went to learn. He went to reboot, to change his hard drive, because he came up a Pharisees of Pharisees.
And real quick too, Apostle Paul, when you read Corinthians, he had to deal with that issue.
Yes.
Of people trying to, and I'm not saying the guys in this chat is doing that, but we see the spirit in this awakening. You can have teachers that you may have hoarded to yourselves that you feel like that's who you're going to listen to. Apostle Paul had to deal with that. Some wanted to only listen to Peter, some wanted to only listen to, and it was making it clear. And Paul made it clear, hey, look, I haven't baptized any of you guys. In other words, he didn't lay down his life for any of them. And it can cause unnecessary division. So let's, and the point of me saying that is, let's be respectful. Berean Scholar, this is his platform. He is teaching here, and you would not even do that in class. If you was in school, especially in college, and you are studying on whatever lessons, you're not bringing up to that professor what other professors teach. You're gonna go off of the syllabus, the curriculum, whatever is laid out, and the source he or she gives you. You're not getting into side conversations of, well, this professor teach this professor teach that, because they're gonna shut you down pretty quick.
Yep.
So let's have the same type of decorum here, because again, I'm not saying that you guys are doing it from a malicious place, but it can cause some unnecessary disagreements that's not intentional. Because if you post something that, let's just say, Berean Scholar goes against what Berean Scholar teach, you could force him to having to address that. And it could come across as if he's going at the person, which actually he's just going after the doctrine that was posted inside the chat. So let's again forward it to him directly, and let's not post these links, so that way it gives him the opportunity to vet it. And then if he sees something, he can say, all right, well, you know what? I'll bring that up in the next discussion, versus doing it the way that we do it. Christ never, you don't see the disciples doing that with Christ.
Never.
So if you have any questions, if you're a true disciple of the Messiah, you would do just like the disciples did. They would ask their questions like that privately. So privately send Berean Scholar the email or whatever links you, or whatever videos you may feel is important, so he can vet it and then present it on the channel. I'm on, and I if I overstep, let me know, Berean Scholar. But I just wanted to.
You got somebody had a question to you. When are you gonna publish a restored scripturally Bible?
Yeah, Berean Scholar been getting on me about that as
well. What are you talking about? Who?
So I actually do have a database, and I'm working on it right now. I had actually started working on this years ago, but I have a database that I'm working on with key names, and coming up with a key format, and commentary on keywords. So we're working on it.
He has the equipment. He has the stuff. Well, we don't have the equipment, but he has the actual, let me say, database and everything. But because certain people, your server wouldn't allow you to put that stuff up, because they're giving you a hard time, because certain people get attacked because the truth, it's hard. it takes money to have a server that can support a large number of people. So that we're trying to build that up. So thank you guys for your helpfulness and your donation, everything. That we're gonna have that one day. In fact, you also have some working on apps for your phone. So all this is in progress.
Absolutely.
Our job is to equip the body, equip the people, so we can go out and win more people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll keep you guys posted for sure. We'll keep you guys posted.
But before we leave, I know we talked about a lot of trauma. We talked about a lot of things bad. I want you to hear some positive. I want you to hear the truth. Before we leave, we'll say this a couple of times.
There's undoubtedly something extraordinary about you. There is undoubtedly something extraordinary about you. There is undoubtedly something extraordinary about you.
And there is something extraordinary about you. That the enemy went through all this to try to wipe you out, but yet we are still here. The Most High said that we will be here always to the end. So I want to thank you for being on this live. I pray that it blesses you, that you learn something, that we'll continue to change ourselves by the renewing of our mind, laying aside that weight that's so easy beset us, and we push forward that goal of the high mark of the call of the Most High. Pastor, thank you for being on this with me.
I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you for having me.
And we just pray blessings and peace and blessings to everybody who's listening. Until next time. Shalom.
Shalom.
What do you think about this topic? Remember to be a Berean scholar. As it is written in the book of Acts 17 verses 11 to 12. Now the Bereans were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if these teachings were true. It's time to deepen your understanding and see your reflection within the sacred pages. Please click subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with the Berean Scholar channel.